All right, Coach Sands, thanks for coming on today. Honestly, really appreciate it. I know you've been quite the supporter, especially last season. So that means a lot. It really does.
Well, you did a phenomenal job, and as a coach, it's difficult to see the girls throughout the meet. I'm running from mile marker to mile marker, so to come back and be able to watch your videos is a great tool. But also, I just really enjoy watching the girls.
No, of course. And when I was, geez, a long time ago, when I ran high school cross country and middle school too, I would always get hyped of just being able to see myself like, oh, there I was past the camera, or like,
Yeah.
oh, there's me and my teammate running, and it was cool. There was one time we had uh, four of us together, 1 through 4, leading at the 2 mile, and it was like
hmm
I'm so glad that was caught on camera because it just was the coolest thing ever. So I understand exactly, and that's why obviously we do it the channel. But yeah, just curious. I'd love to pick your brain on quite a few topics. One was just how you got involved in the sport.
Ah, that's a good question. I had no intention of coaching cross country. That wasn't even on my radar. I had a student, Audrey Cobb, who was on the cross country team, and her junior year they had just lost their coaches, and so she came to me with Lauren Long and just said, "Hey, can you help us throughout the summer? We know you love to run." I did a bunch of 25 or so half marathons with just a bunch of friends. We'd do these destination runs, so she knew I enjoyed running, and so I said, sure, I'll step in and help you out through the summer, help them with the training plan, and just ended up falling in love with the sport, with the girls, just being plugged back into coaching. I'd been a former basketball coach. I had played in college, just athletics has always been a part of my life. And so getting plugged back in with the team and that, just that work ethic, the drive. You know what it's like to be a part of a team. There's just
Yeah.
nothing like it. And so really enjoyed it. And they went through the process of trying to find a coach and ended up coming to me towards the end of the summer and said, would you like to do this? And so I definitely was invested by then. As soon as they asked me, I bought 6 books on how to coach cross country and just started reading all summer and doing everything I could just to become more educated in how to help train the girls and stuff. And it obviously it's worked out. They've been incredibly successful. But yeah, my first cross country meet I ever went to was the first one I coached.
Oh my gosh, that is so cool. That's cool. But see,
Yeah.
that also tells like a lot of just like, if you put the time in and the effort, obviously, and like you said, read just reading a bunch of books, and two, you can just you learn the sport. I think that's something I really had a lot of pride in high school of just like not just going out and running, but just trying to understand the sport, learn the workouts. Like, why do we do this? How can I get better? And obviously, that's a huge testament to you to completely be not even in the world of running really, and then just where you've come so far.
Well, I
Yeah,
gotta give credit to my captains at the time. Those girls, Audrey and Lauren, just really helped me. And I think success really depends on a coach's relationship with her leaders and being able to have that open communication. So as we're trying things out, I'm always checking in on my girls. How are you feeling? I might have a great workout plan, but if it's crazy hot or we had a tough workout, earlier in the week, I'm just always checking in. How are your legs feeling? How are you doing? And just that communication, I'm open to modifying what it is that we need to do because I trust them, because they want the team to be successful as well. So I think a coach's relationship with the leaders on the team is critical in order to have that success. You can know everything in the world about coaching, but if you don't have a good relationship with your runners, it's going to get you nowhere.
oh yeah, no, exactly. I completely understand. I had a coach. There were students from all across the county that would come and want to run with this guy, and it's just the relationship that he built and the camaraderie. It was
Mhm.
huge. So definitely understand. Now, when we get to, obviously, like you said, you read so many books, and I'm sure you've learned even twice or triple as much as but from back then. Do you have any, coaching like philosophies now that you kind of like, you definitely like, hey, this is the way it is. Like I've taken this and that, but this is the direction of the program or the coaching style that you want?
I very much, the biggest adjustment I had was changing the culture that the girls had been used to. And it's, for me, it's team first. We're on a cross country team. You're running as a team. If you have individual desires, then you can go and run independent. So for me, I don't care how good you are. It's, you really need to be focused on the team. And that whole iron sharpens iron, when you are running with your teammates and their biggest competitor is themselves in trying to get better. And then as teammates, you guys are encouraging one another to improve as well. It's a team mentality, and culture is definitely what I focus on. And I think in having that, you watch my team, the girls are the biggest cheerleaders, not just to one another, but to other girls that are coming in. It's just building a culture of having fun, working hard, and that leads to tremendous success.
Yeah, and that was gonna kind of lead into my next question of just like how important is that unified team right from the get go? Like, I mean, I don't know if you want to say it, but have you ever had a runner like that who kind of is more individual and like have you been able to, or did you have to try to kind of mold it and say like, hey, this is like the foundation that we have, the unified team aspect of things?
You've got girls in all different, along the spectrum, let's put it that way. And so the longer they're in the program, they realize what my focus is on. And then when you see the other girls on the team that are buying into that team mentality and the success that they're having, it's, you can't force somebody to be a team player, but hopefully you're building a culture within your program that you are encouraging that, and the girls that buy into that are having tremendous success and a lot of fun. And you guys, you got to realize when you're at your highest highs, you want people to be able to celebrate with you. And if you're off doing your own thing, your team is not as inclined to celebrate as when they've been running through the mud with you and through the rain and through your injuries and all those things. There's just something that is built when you go through all those thousands of hours leading up to that. And then also when you have your biggest failures, it's your team that rallies around you to help lift you up and to encourage you. And so I think when you see the benefits of being a part of a team, that's where hopefully your runners will just naturally buy in because of the huge benefits of that.
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense in there too. Um, like I was mentioning before with the coach, like that unified team aspect of things really, in a way, it's contagious too. You do see that, especially from, I remember running in eighth grade and just looking at my upperclassmen, my seniors, my captains, and just being like, okay, that's how it's done. This is how we do the warm up and cool downs, and hey, we circle up. Like this is, it does go a long way.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so now kind of shifting a little bit more or going more in depth on some of the workouts and running plans. A lot of coaches have like famous workouts or like go-to workouts like the Michigan over at the University of Michigan. Do you have maybe like a favorite workout or a, a go-to workout that you like to do maybe either in the summertime or or during the season?
During the season, when we focus more on our workouts, I don't know how famous they are amongst our team, that they're aware of it. We have Dead Man's Hill that we'll do some 800 repeats on. That's, I think when you start off at the beginning of the season with any of your workouts, there's kind of like a litmus test. You see how far you can get, you see how fast you can get. And so when you sprinkle those workouts, you don't want to overdo it, but when you sprinkle those throughout the season, and then the next time they get to that workout, they're racing themselves. Okay, can I get a little bit farther? Can I go a little bit faster? Kind of thing. We've got our corn road ladder that we end up doing. which is well known. It's right there next to the school, so all the kids are driving by. Tennis and softballs out there, and so a lot of students think that we're crazy for what we do, but that's we've got the reputation and we enjoy that.
Now, you talk about those workouts. Is that like a one-time thing, like one per season, or do you do
Oh
it
no.
multiple times per season? Or
We'll do it multiple times. We'll gradually increase the number of reps that we end up doing, start cutting down our time as the season, progresses on those. Just having goals that we're shooting for as we try to improve, but it might be once every 2 weeks or so that we're doing one of those two workouts.
yeah, so you spoke on obviously working out or summer workout or my bad workouts in general typically are obviously more focused on in season. Do you
Mhm.
do any summer workouts in your training, or is it strictly just like base miles type deal?
My philosophy is more of resetting in the summertime because you've got to give these kids, especially that are in track, it's a 12 month 12 months is what you're running. And so allowing them to kind of reset a little bit after state, start off with those base miles again, just to try to build back up, give your body a chance to reset so you don't end up plateauing. But we really focus on the endurance, but then a lot on strength training. So plyometrics, we do, bands and hurdles and all kinds of things. Obviously, focusing on the core a good bit, but trying to build up that strength around the hips, knees, and ankles to help prevent injuries.
Yeah, so again, you speak on obviously focusing more of the workouts during the season. Um, During summer training, you know, and you speak on track being so long. Do you have like I guess really for some of your athletes that may go and do like more postseason stuff, or like what is kind of like your cutoff? Do you talk to an athlete and say, hey, look, like running in because there is like New Balance Outdoor and all these fancy outdoor meets that happen in June, and
Hmm.
it's like okay, like what is your kind of philosophy on? Hey, maybe we need to cut it, and stop maybe beginning of June, early or end of May, or do
Right.
you kind of want to like run through those and say, hey, we may lose a little bit of cross country summer training, but we really want to focus on maybe hitting a fast time in the mile, 2 mile, etc.
Right. My personal philosophy is, I mean, the girls are at their peak at the end of track season for those types of races. And so obviously when you can roll straight into some of those meets, like I had a couple girls going to running lanes, want to have them have that opportunity and to get that kind of spotlight. But then my personal preference, once the track season is over with, everything is optional after that. My personal philosophy is I would rather you, after you get those national races in, is to kind of reset, make sure you give your legs a break for a couple weeks, and then gradually start back up. And we're focused on endurance and strength training again. And just allowing your body to learn how to take that oxygen and put it in your legs so that you can go a little bit farther with that endurance and not to burn the girls out too much because obviously we don't want them peaking too early, in the cross country season. It's just all about trying to do a reset. I know some coaches like that summer training and racing. Um, I'm not a big fan of that, but I mean every individual athlete, is different. It depends. Some are built different. Some have a stronger motivation. It just really depends on the athlete to do what's best for them.
Yeah, so how often do you I've seen such a crazy number, some of like 7 days, 14 days, 12 days, 10 days. What's your kind of go-to numbers, like how many days off after track season
I would
to
love for
get
them to
ready?
take 2 weeks off,
Yeah.
2 weeks off, and then gradually work their way back into it. You're not jumping back into 30 miles a week, but just easy miles, getting back into it and focusing on that strength training.
Yeah, no, for sure. I agree with that too. I typically I tell my kids like at least 2 weeks. Go be a
Hmm.
kid. Three if we can
Hmm.
take even 3 weeks, like
Yeah.
get out of it, man. Yeah, go have fun. Like
Yeah. Well,
running
throughout the.
is such a mental sport and
Mhm.
putting so many miles into like sometimes you really just need a break.
Yeah, well, throughout the summer, they'll get those family vacations and definitely encourage them to take those. If you can go and get a run in the morning on the beach, great. But just to keep a little mileage on the legs. But yeah, they need a break. They need a reset. In my
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah, no, of course. And I think that's like, I think it's widely now, like, I feel like it's more acceptable nowadays. I don't know. When I ran, it was so just odd. I guess it was odd to take so many breaks. And now, like, especially recently, you see in like college, there's some college, like premier college runners that openly say, like, yeah, I only run like 3 days a week or 4 days a week. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, where was that when I was running? Because my coach was having us run 7 days, 14 days straight and a day off. Like, I don't even remember a day off. So it's definitely more like acceptable in a weird way, or like
Well, I
maybe
think
it's
they're
just,
doing heavy cross training on the days they're not running. They're doing something else, and we just
yeah.
don't have the facilities at the high school to be able to do something like that.
Yeah. Do you have like, what is your kind of take, I guess, on like even during the season? Do you have any days off, or do you run 14, 15, 21 days straight with no
Well,
break?
we run 6 days a week.
Yep.
I've switched the schedule around a little bit starting last year, where we just race on the Saturdays. And so we'll have our pre-meet workout is pretty light before we end up racing on a Saturday. Sundays are off. And so we'll throw in obviously your couple workouts in during the week, and then you got your recovery runs, which are just easy miles, just to loosen up those legs.
Now, with each year, right, there's a new team,
Hmm.
there's new personalities, and
Hmm.
there's new challenges. How
Yes.
do you balance that all together?
That's a really good question. I'm asking myself that question, this year. Um, I had, when I was just learning my first year, I had, you know, Audrey and Lauren that were very eager to have me coming in and helping them to be successful. And then the past 2 years, I've had Meredith Norris and Maddie Cobb, who have been phenomenal leaders in building, helping me be an extension of my expectations of our team and our culture, our work ethic, and so forth. And so, with the two of them gone, because they've really had a huge impact the past 2 years, there's a huge opening, and it's very interesting as we're starting our summer conditioning to see who's rising up to fill those spots and to see what the character of our team is going to be this year compared to the last 2 years.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, is it noticeable when you see, I mean, especially girls that start with you at an early age and make it to, junior, senior year? Like, do you notice those changes and just leadership qualities with them, or?
Oh, very much so. There's a maturity that comes into it. You can see like this little light switch come on. We're like, okay, I want to take this serious. I may want to run in college, and so there's a lot more seriousness in just the stretching, that you need to do. It's the little things that they start taking notice of and doing correctly. Um, but I'm trying to think what your question was. Now you see that the maturity in there also. There's some girls that are a little quieter, that don't talk nearly as much. When you have very vocal girls, when those vocal girls end up graduating, then it's okay who's going to step up and fill that void. And so you might have some girls that you did not hear a lot from earlier, that all of a sudden they take on this new role, and they're stepping into the spotlight now, and they have more of a voice. Because when you have very strong leaders like I did the past 2 years, you got girls watching, they're doing what they're supposed to, but they're not nearly as vocal. And so now it's seeing who's rising up to take those spots and leading the team and leading stretching, and keeping an eye on the younger girls. That's, I think a lot of girls on my team didn't even realize this, the younger ones, but my captains would end up running out, but they would take turns. They would circle back around to run with the new girls, to run with the slower girls, just to make sure they knew where they were going, what they needed to do, and then they would stay after practice to get their miles in.
Oh
And so
wow.
it's that kind of leadership, um, where it is team first, that has helped us to be successful.
Yeah, and I think that goes. to the longevity of a program's high level of finishing.
Mhm.
Uh, when you build that, especially again, and it goes back to team unity of, even you may not be the fastest runner out there, but if you feel like that team is still behind you 100%, and then again you start pushing yourself and getting up there too, and that's just how you build teams for years.
Mhm.
Um, so at the beginning of the season, I'm assuming maybe the beginning of the season, maybe even summer training, do do you guys talk about team goals for the year or individual goals? Like, do they come up to you and say like, "Hey, coach, like I want to run 18 minutes this year. Like, how do we get there?" Or even just as a team, do you guys talk about any of that stuff?
We do have team goals at the beginning of the season, or I should say goals in general, and they always tend to be team goals are lined up first. Um, Obviously, we want to keep them realistic in what we're doing, but the past couple years, our goal has been to get in the top three at state because we feel that if we are competitive and we're in the top three, then that means that we're in the mix. And so any given day, any team can end up winning. And so the philosophy that I have is that we have prepared in such a way that on race day that we are in the best possible position, that if things go our way, it doesn't matter if another team is expected to win, by 50 points or whatever. Any given day, we can step in and take that spot. And so
Yeah,
that's our goal and that's what we work towards.
yeah, no, that really is like, I think one of the most important things, maybe even like all runners should know, is like it takes one race. That's it. It takes one race to break out. It takes just that's it. You can always have it. Short little thing. My junior year, I ran regionals and placed like 40th place. And I was leading at one point, just trying to see what you could do because we had a team that was good enough to make it to the States, and uh, I knew that, and wanted to try and get up there. End up getting 40th. State meet turns around, and we're a solid team. We're probably looking at like a top five finish that day, and ended up placing 10th in the whole thing. And I was like, oh my gosh, like it takes one race, it takes one race. But as a team, uh, it seemed like the other teams were just not. It's just, I don't know. It was too hot. The heat
Mhm.
got to him, but we ended up coming in fourth. And honestly, and if my teammates, and I was really more like the two or three guy on the team, really consistently, occasionally maybe number one, but even if those guys would have just maybe just had essentially just normal races, or I mean, we would have won the whole thing. And it's like you just never know. It could
Yep.
just be your day. It could always just be your
Yep.
day, and it's huge that runners like understand that. It's your PR could be 20 minutes, and hey, maybe today's the day. Just believe in yourself and have the training.
Well, and that's
But
the thing. I mean, we have goals like what you want to be at your mile splits, but I try not to be too focused in on that because, like I said, it might be a really rough course. It might be a really hot day, about where you should be. But if it's that perfect weather and you're feeling good, I don't want them to slow down to hit a split when they could end up shattering it, on that day. So it's just always being prepared. And at any given moment, you just got to make the most of it.
yeah, I remember coming through the first mile. It was like it was like low 5 minute mile through 5K at one point, and I was like, oh my gosh, I feel great. Like this is insane. Like don't slow, just keep up with the pack, stay with the pack.
Hmm.
Ended up running 16:13, and it was just like, wow, okay, I guess we can do this. It wasn't even in the cards. But believe in yourself. So now that we've kind of explored, we're kind of getting out of track now, but I've seen here and there, um, well, actually, it seems a little bit more frequently. I've seen a lot of cross runners not do track. Maybe not in your team, but in other teams, I've seen it. What do you think the importance for track is for cross country runners to do that? Is there an importance?
I think it's very important, and obviously the success of our cross country team shows that. I think cross country is all about building that endurance, where you're working on training your body to run farther, and keeping up a certain pace. I think track is more focused on that sprint work. Even if you're running an 8, a 16, a 32, it's getting that leg turnover and doing some shorter speed work, which then I think falls into the beginning of cross country season, getting those fast starts, and making those long runs feel like easier runs, compared to what you were doing, in the 16 and the 32. Um, the girls that have not run track, which I've only had two or three, and then they come into cross country season, they notice the other girls that they used to run with are now ahead of them. And so they may, over the course of the summer training, be able to try to get back up there, but you can definitely tell that there's a huge impact from track season into cross country and cross country into track. I think they're
Yeah,
important. You got to run year round.
yeah, no, that it's true, it I don't know, it's interesting. It's really interesting because I've done some research on some teams, and I'm like there's a team, I won't mention them, but there's a team out there who uh they were runner up last year and on the boys side in one of the classes, and it was like four of their top seven didn't run track this year, and I'm like, and they lost two seniors, and I'm like, what is going on? like what is going on there? There's such expectations. There's like I just don't know the stigma behind not doing it. And my daughter ran track this season, and her 5K time was on the little slower side this past season, but in track, just like, hey, finally broke 7 minutes for the mile again, and I was like, it's such an important, I think, uh, just to have that faith in yourself that like, hey, I ran that in cross country, but I am fast. I can run a quicker mile. I can get into it. It is really important. Um, you look at track season this year. I think South Carolina really, especially towards the end, like you really saw kind of like All American, and then obviously running lane produces fast times. There was a ton of times or like meets that were just solely like distance races. We did a meet in North Carolina. It was all the mile. It was only a mile. Um, the overall growth in South Carolina, how do you feel it's improved? I guess from cross country in 24 to track 25.
I mean, I do. You've got some girls out there that are getting that name recognition, and teams are gradually starting that as well. That I think, I know we're taking more trips to North Carolina this season. We're just trying to find that competition. It's hard to find really good courses. They can be a little bit challenging, but you also want it to be safe. Um, I hate running on the concrete all the time. It's just brutal on the kids' legs, and unfortunately at Mauldin we don't even have a cross country course, and so we're running on concrete all the time. So sometimes we'll run a Saturday race, not necessarily even all out, but just to get some miles in on a different course, to get off the pavement, especially for the younger girls, just to give them some more racing experience to sort of talk them through that. We might have varsity girls match up with some JV girls, but I think the competition in cross country is definitely improving in the area. I wish we had a little bit more up here in the upstate, so we didn't have to drive down to Columbia, North Carolina, and that if we had, I wish we had. Eye Opener is a great race up here in the upstate. I just wish we had more big upstate races, and unfortunately we don't.
Yeah, yeah, I was mentioning that with Avery the other day. Eye opener.
Hmm.
It's a great course. It's just terrible, I think, spectator wise, just because it is one loop. I mean, I can't tell you. Oh my goodness, I ran so many miles that day on that
Yeah,
course, just to get from the start to go towards the 1 mile to get back to the like 2.5 mark to get to the finish. It's just one
yeah.
huge loop. Um, but yeah, it's such like that. Like when I think of South Carolina cross country, like that is the course that I think
Hmm.
is one of the most pure, at least one of the most pure ones in South Carolina.
Hmm.
I'm curious though, like I've never, because I'm from Florida,
Okay.
and even Florida, I mean, I don't recall any meets that had concrete. Like And here we had two that we went to last year, and I'm like, what is going on here? Like, that's not cross country. I'm just confused at why we would even have races like that. It's such a weird thing.
I just think we're building up as much as we're building up. It's just hard to find those.
Yeah.
I mean, to not even have a place to run at Mauldin High School, is very frustrating. So we do, you try to find places during the summertime to run where you're not on the concrete as much, but during the season, it's very difficult.
Yeah, we instead of lack of space in Florida, we had lack of hills.
Oh,
So
yeah.
yeah, so we would run up a parking garage to
Uh-huh.
get some hills work. We'd run up. We had like this huge bridge because I lived on a barrier island, and so it was just you had a bridge. So we'd go to the bridge and run. But yeah, that was our struggle. Um, we started talking about schedules and whatnot. What goes into creating a schedule for you? Like, do you want to get right out of the gate with because I think you guys opened up at Skyhawk last year, right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Correct.
So, and I thought that was a pretty good. Honestly, it was a really good meet to open up with. Um, Instead of just, I mean, I know a team that opened up with eye opener. So,
Hmm.
like, what is kind of your philosophy in that of just like, hey, do you want to open up with something big right out of the gate, or do you want to get kind of almost like a jamboree feel to it?
For me, I like the jamboree feel just to get those race day jitters out a little bit early. Also, when you have so many new girls that have never run before, or it might be their first time on varsity, those kinds of crowds can be very intimidating, and learning how to navigate that. So we'll try to get in at least one before we get to eye opener just to get a little bit of experience in. But my philosophy in cross country, because I do get to design the schedule, I'm looking at where are all the best teams running. I know some coaches' philosophies, they'll have easier meets because they want to build confidence within their athletes. And so to have some wins underneath their belt, or to get PRs and that kind of stuff. That is not my goal. My goal is I want competition. I want pressure. And so we're trying to find out where the best teams running, and we want to be there. Unfortunately, that means we have to drive a little bit more to get there, but I think it definitely pays off when it matters, and that's at state.
Yeah. Do you have, I guess, almost like a meet limit as far as like how many meets you want to run a year, or is it because I mean you have to kind of give in. I mean you're going to run regionals, you're going to run a state meet. Um, some I guess have like conferences or like counties. I'm
Hmm.
still learning all of it.
Yeah,
um,
we've got region, county, qualifiers, and state.
Qualifiers too. There's qualifiers. Oh,
Hmm.
jeez. Yeah. So we had a conference meet, a district meet, a region meet, and then a state meet. So the four and each. So you always had to place in the top six for like
Hmm.
districts to go to regionals to go to state qualifiers. I'm still like I don't even know. It's a bit. It's for a new person like me. It's really
Hmm.
confusing. I'm like, what is going on here? Um.
Well, it's
So yeah.
confusing for us as well, especially when they just switched divisions. Like you have the 5A, 5-1 and 5-2. 5A1, 5A2 is a little bit different, and so
Yeah.
we're trying to navigate that as well.
Yeah, I don't get that at
Yeah.
all. That blows my mind of why there's like 5A Division 1, Division 2. What? I
Yeah.
don't even make if anything make 6A or something. But um so yeah, so like going into again kind of back to the it's just like creating that schedule knowing
Hmm.
like hey, these meets are concrete. Like they're going to be there.
Hmm.
And obviously your expectation as a team is you're going to make it to state.
Hmm.
So how many meets do you want kind of prior to that? And do you take into account like, hey, some of the JV runners obviously are not going to run state
Hmm.
qualifiers and states?
So in creating the schedule last year, it's evolving depending on the athletes that you have and so forth. But we had a solid schedule set up for about every Saturday. Had one break in between there before we got into the championship season, but we'd have one that we knew was going to be tough, lots of competition, and then the next one we may end up using that just as a workout, where you might be doing mile cut downs. It might be varsity running with the JV. It wasn't 100% racing every single Saturday. Also, you build your schedule with the mindset that you might have one canceled due to a hurricane, and something like that. And so you build your schedule up, and then as you end up going, you've got to tweak that a little bit. Who's running when and what you're running and how, all out or not. We've got two overnight trips that we're doing this season for the first time, and so I'm gonna allow the top girls. I'm taking the top girls, not the entire team, because we've got like 30 on the team right now, and we can't afford to do that. And so taking those top girls and then giving them an opportunity that next week, if you don't want to do two away meets in a row because of schooling or traveling or whatever the case might be, you want to dip out, that's fine. Then you bring who's ever next in line to fill that spot. Is kind of what we're doing. And then the rest of the girls will have local meets that they'll do so they can still get a race in, work on those times, those PRs, that they want to try to hit, but trying to be flexible in that and making sure the girls are communicating how their legs are feeling, if they need a break or not during that time. But with such a strong group, that junior class, and then I have Callie Rom as my senior coming back on varsity, is allowing them to have these meets where they can get recognized. I want that recognition. So if they do want to run in college, they're having an opportunity to run against competition that will also be running in college and being seen by college coaches.
Yeah, no, I know you mentioned the hurricane, because we had, I think it was like two this year. That
Mm-hmm.
one, we had one at Dorman that
Mm-hmm.
got completely canceled, and then our Starlight got rescheduled.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so when it goes into something like that, like, because you guys did run at Starlight, correct?
Correct.
Yes. Yep. So when it goes into something like that, like, what is your mindset on that? Because Starlight was later on in the season,
Mm-hmm.
close to the state, kind of series.
Right.
Did that play any part of like, hey, we're not gonna go to Starlight, or is it like, yeah, you know what, we still want to go because it is such a, you know, big meet going?
Mm-hmm.
And do you talk to other coaches about that? I know that's kind of a lot of questions in one, but do you talk to other coaches about that? Or it's like, hey, we plan on going. Are you gonna go? If you go, we'll go. Or how does that all
Right,
work?
a little bit to some degree. If it's going to end up that a lot of the top teams are pulling out, and we have no competition there, then especially now with it being Starlight and that's right here in town, we're probably going to go anyway. If it was a meet like down in Columbia or something, is it really worth that drive? For these kids and all the parents. Uh, for us not to have any competition. And so trying to keep that in mind. I know it was difficult when we were out, and especially with Helene, which I don't understand, but coaches weren't even allowed to practice with their players, or with their runners. And so that's when, again, captains, it's critical for them that they organized that themselves. And they knew I already had, I always end up posting different phases of our practice plans. And so what ended up happening is the girls just, hey, we know what we're supposed to be doing. And they set it up themselves. And those that could meet went out and ran together. Those that couldn't, did it on their own in their neighborhood and just trying to keep their miles. And so that's where I was very blessed with athletes that really do want to be successful. And when they know that their teammates are out there, they're encouraging one another. If somebody doesn't show, I got one of my captains that's on the phone. Hey, where are you? What are you doing? Kind of thing. And it's just holding each other accountable.
Yeah, no, I agree with completely. And that's kind of the cool thing about cross country, especially cross country, is that you really don't need to be at the school. Or, you don't need a specific field. You can kind of just go anywhere, and as long as your runners know, hey, and yeah, like you said, you have good captains that they can lead a practice on their own
Mhm.
if need be. That's super important, and that's what I've been really kind of saying out loud now, especially this summer, is you don't have to run in the same location every single day. If you have a captain, or just because maybe you can't make it out to the practice, with work or something, you have captains and leaders and seniors that can do that, and have learned from you. And I think that is a testament to not only their leadership but you as a coach being able to convey that message of, hey, you guys can run it yourself. And especially in times like that where the hurricane comes and it's like, you're on strict guidelines from the league. So no,
Well, I
that's
think
super cool.
Yeah, I think most of these high school athletes, once they end high school, that's the end of their careers. And so I feel my job as a coach is to try to help equip these young ladies to become leaders. And if it's not in cross country, it's when they get into the real world and having those leadership skills, and having the confidence in doing that. And so my job as the coach is to help. These are the expectations. This is how you handle this confrontation, or whatever the situation may end up being, and equipping them to have those tools, so that they can become successful. Because nowadays, with kids and technology, and you got a disagreement, they just delete you or block you or whatever it is they do, and you've got to learn to have those communication skills, and that's something we're very intentional about.
Yeah, no. So, a few more questions before we wrap it up. I'm really curious, as a coach, I know you're proud of your team all the time. Um, the the state meet at Cross, picking Avery's brain on that one too, because I was like, what happened, and it's like, what could have been? Um, I told her my senior year, for the cross meet, out of every single year I ran, it was the only time I ever fell, and they didn't call it back. The gun just went off, and I guess we were too far out, or nobody saw, but they didn't call it back, and it was the only time I was like, dang, like that's your state meet. That kind of sucks, but
That's
the
kind of like
third,
Meredith Norris in her
yeah,
800, her senior year, last race of her career, and yeah,
it's
it's
brutal.
painful.
But
Yeah.
so you look at the third place finish, and obviously there's like what could have been. What do you take still from that though? Because obviously you did see a lot of, your team fought really hard, and I mean third place at states is huge.
Well, it was actually fourth this year. It was
Fourth.
third the year before. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's Sorry, that just made it worse, but
Oh no, you're good. No.
it's all good.
Um,
What I would end up saying is I told my girls even before that meet started, I don't care where they finish. I could not love them any more or any less than what I did in that moment. And obviously we were ranked going in, first. Coaches poll, we were first. We felt pretty confident that if we ran, a good race, that we could come in first. And so we don't say that going in. We know that's in the back of everybody's minds, but I don't want to put that pressure on the girls. And so it's always, hey, we want to be in the mix in the top three. And if we're in the mix in the top three and everything goes well, we have an opportunity to do well. Um, Unfortunately, it was a very cold race. Avery struggles with that serious asthma issues, and she fought to the point of her collapsing, and that was because of her teammates, and she did not want to let them down. I remember holding her in my arms, and once she came to, just her realization of what happened, and the first thing that she said is my team. That was her first thoughts. And for us to lose our number one runner and still finish fourth in the state, incredibly proud of that. With that group of girls, I would take every year coming in fourth place to have the type of girls and the season that we had. um, we're very close. We love each other. We have a tremendous amount of fun. We had incredible memories, throughout the entire season. Region champs again, county champs again, PRs. It was a great season. This was one race. It doesn't define who we are, but it is obviously a goal that we have, that we want to get back there and to compete, because we feel that we have a team that we can be up there.
yeah, and you kind of answered a little bit into it. You went into it a little bit. Obviously, even going into this year, being ranked number one, that's a huge target on the back.
I don't know how
Um,
we can be ranked
it,
number one when I had three seniors on my varsity team, the top seven that have graduated. So I think they're being more generous, than that. Obviously, that's a goal we have to be back up there in the mix. But yeah, we don't focus on where our ranking is. It's just being prepared.
yeah, and I was gonna say, like, I'm sure, like, well, you kind of mentioned it right there, like there's no thought that goes into it. Like no, like do you mention that to the team, or are they aware? Like, hey, we're ranked number one. Like everyone's kind of looking at us right now. Do you guys talk
The-
about that, or is it just like taboo? Like we don't speak about it?
I don't want to put that pressure on the girls. We have confidence going in, which I think is very important, but you've got to find that fine line of not being cocky as well. Because once you're a cocky, somebody is going to come in and just snatch it from you. So the talk is always trying to be in that mix, whether it's the top five or the top three, wherever we tend to be, and then whatever opportunities present themselves. We have come into races where we're ranked fifth and we come out in second. We had races like at state, we're ranked first, we come in at fourth. So we know any given day, anything could happen. Somebody could have a great race, or we could have somebody go down. And so if it's the day that somebody else on another team goes down, feel bad for them, but we have to use that opportunity. It presented itself, and so we need to step up. And so that's just always the talk, being prepared in such a way that if the opportunity presents itself, we have our best race.
No, agreed, agreed. And it's funny because I mean, again, yeah, we were ranked highly at some points of the season, um, in high school, and it was just like it's hard to not talk about it because it's posted everywhere, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh, it's what a coach, coaches think or sometimes, and um, it's interesting. It's interesting, but yeah, I think once you do put it on it though, you almost put just pressure on unneeded, unwanted pressure on yourself. Um, last thing, you don't have to answer if you don't want to. Um, you mentioned two meets. Uh, you're going to spend the night at.
Mhm.
Would you say what meets those are, or is it just quiet?
No, I mean, I don't think it's any secret. We want to, what is it? The Warriors Invitational we did 2 years ago. That's giving the varsity girls an opportunity. It's an overnight meet. It's down at Pawleys Island. So obviously it is fast. It is flat. It's running through that soccer complex and a lot of um, hard sand that they get a run on. And so that's kind of a perk if you've worked your way up to that to get to run to, and it's running down in the lower state. Like I said, we've got a lot of meets up here, a lot of hills and stuff, and so just giving them something a little different. And if they do decide to switch the state meets or the qualifiers, upper state, lower state, and not just always in Columbia, we just want to be prepared for that can we travel, stay overnight, and still be able to compete. And then the other one is we want to go up to Adidas. Um, and race up there and get some competition. I also think we're getting to the point where I've got, with the success that we've got the opportunity for some girls that are talking about wanting to run in college. And in college, you have those overnight trips. You have to end up missing school. You're on the road, you're sleeping in a hotel. You might not get that same routine that some runners can get very superstitious or transfixed on, that everything has to be exactly. And so it's building in that little bit of, what ifs and being able to adapt to that, because you're going to have it in college. And we don't even know where state's going to be at this year. I sure don't want to be on a bus ride for 4 hours before we show up, at state. We're going to have to stay overnight in a hotel. And so if we can throw one or two of those in throughout the season, it's just long-term preparation.
Yeah, no, yeah, Adidas would be great. It's a great course, NXN course. I ran there a couple of years ago, just in like a community race at NXN,
Mhm.
and because we've gone there before and did some easy runs there, but man, it's a brutal course. That downhill at the start is great, but coming back up the hill is like, whew. It was fun. It was fun though. It was really fun, and then obviously over there you got major colleges, NC State and Chapel Hill is close by too, and Duke and all them. So
Well, I
definitely,
think the postseason Nike meet is going to be there as well. So if any
yeah,
of the girls want to run that, they'll be familiar with that.
yeah, no, of course. So, Coach, I appreciate your time. Seriously, we look forward to really a great season from the girls, and we'll definitely have to catch back up sometime in the year.
Oh, I appreciate you asking for the interview, but more than that, I really enjoy watching your videos. Like I said, I use it as a learning tool, but then as soon as you post them, I'm sitting on the couch watching the video. It's like watching the game or the meet as a spectator, and not as a coach. And so really enjoying to see how the girls are doing and how they're looking.
Appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Okay, best of luck to you. Take care.